Hello, brothers and sisters, ladies and gentlemen. How you guys doing? Hopefully you're good. Blessings unto you. We're going to go over something here, and I want to share this with people because I constantly see this battle over and over and over again, and it's been many years. Recently, I was able to listen to the Debate Talk show, and they were going over the law of Moses and its relevance to today. Should we observe the law of Moses? Well, first off, you can't observe the law of Moses. I'm going to be honest with you. And people say, no, you can. How can you? If you don't have a temple, you don't have a Levitical priesthood set up at all, okay? And the many statutes, ordinances, and judgments that Moses gave, you certainly can't follow through with. Okay, you can't. You haven't been able to follow through with those particular commands of Moses, through Moses, if you will, since the Messiah. So 70 AD, you can go as far as back as Romans conquering Jerusalem and throwing down the temple and so on and so forth. Haven't been able to fulfill it because you don't have a temple first, you don't have a priesthood. So how are you going to be able to fulfill the laws of Moses? You can't. Okay, and the laws of Moses consist of, let's make sure we're clear. People say the first 5 books. Well, that's fair. If you want to say the Torah, that's fine. You can go with the first 5 books. Well, that would mean you have to kick in when Moses starts distributing these particular laws. And that would be from the book of Exodus. That would include the book of Exodus, okay, for sure. You would also have to include the book of Leviticus, the book of Numbers, and the book of Deuteronomy, okay? Make sure here I'm flipping through these, make sure I got these right. Yeah, and the book of Deuteronomy. So, and then after, yeah, that's right. So the book of Deuteronomy. So that's where you're going to have to deal. Now, here's the funny thing about this. When you go to before you get, let me see if I get this correct. Before you go to even get to the book of Numbers, you got to deal with the book of Leviticus. And here's a problem. These are supposedly the laws of Moses, right? Well, the laws of Moses kept track of what was going on, and it goes straight from the book of Exodus to the book of Leviticus, the Levitical priesthood, which at best is sparingly scattered around the globe. It's not unified or set up, and there's no real temple. So there's a major league problem. The first thing, it starts off in the book of Leviticus. Then the Lord called to Moses and spoke to him from the tent of meeting, saying, speak to the sons of Israel and say to them, when any man of you brings an offering to the sovereign, you shall bring your offering of animals from the herd or the flock. Any of you guys doing that? Any of you? See, this is one thing I have to say, and I'm going to make sure we're clear about this before I go deeper into this. I challenge you, for all the teachers and the instructors that are telling you that you need to observe the law of Moses, I want you to ask them, when's the last time they've been giving their burnt offerings? That's in the law of Moses, by the way. As a matter of fact, I can guarantee you this, and I'll challenge this, anyone. Find me one Israelite, just one. I'm not asking for a whole plethora, none of that. One of them, give me one Israelite who's been able to follow the law of Moses other than the Messiah. You're not going to be able to do it, especially today. You're certainly not going to be able to do it. Now, the Messiah could do it because at least the temple was there when he was around, okay? The Levitical priesthood was still around, okay, and so on and so forth. You don't have that now. You don't have any of that. So any of these people telling you and trying to instruct you to follow the law of Moses have got you on the wrong track, okay, period. And not a single one of them who are claiming and teaching you to try to live and follow the law of Moses can keep it and has been able to do it themselves. Any of them been circumcised on the 8th day? I would venture most of them haven't been. I could easily tell you that. There's a lot of parts of it that they're not followed and not fulfilled. Okay? So they're trying to tell you to do something that they themselves can't even do and haven't been able to do, which is ridiculous. But they claim to be intelligent and they think that they know what they're talking about regarding the scriptures. No, they do not. They are stuck under the stumbling, or they're messed up by the stumbling of the Messiah. The Messiah is a stumbling block for them. They don't get it. But let's go through this. I'm going to show you guys something, okay, because it's really important. One thing that was brought up, I was watching on this, listening to this actually, watching and listening, I guess you would say, on Debate Talk, right? Debate Talk Radio or whatever, it's on the Debate Talk channel, whatever. They went to Revelations. I'm going to show you guys something that's really, really simple, okay? And I always try to give it to you guys very succinct and simple. I don't try to make it very complicated because it's not really complicated. They love going to Revelation chapter 14. And this is something they do all the time. Revelation 14, verse 12, right? They love to go to this verse. It says, here is the perseverance of the holy ones or saints who keep the commandments of God and their faith in Yeshua, the Messiah, or Yeshua, as you may have, some depends on what translation you have. Okay? Now, in that verse, literally, now I kid you not, I'm going to show you how this is actually true. Here is the perseverance of the holy ones or saints who keep the commandments of God. What are the commandments of God? Very interesting. Let's go find out. And what else it says here? And keep the commandments of God and their faith in Yeshua, the Messiah, or Yeshua. Some of you guys may understand it, but I know his name is more Yeshua. But anyways, dialects will change to a certain extent. But let's get to this. If you go to Exodus chapter 19, I want you to pay attention to this. This is very important. And watch the order of things. I always try to get people to keep up with the order, the format, the way it's laid out. Now watch how this is done, okay? It says, remember in Revelation, let me go over here, let me flip it over to Revelations so you can see it in the screen. I was reading out of the Bibles because I got it right in front of me. Matter of fact, I might as well just, let me put it to the side. That'll save me, so I'll focus on doing it on the screen. Okay, so, because I love flipping through. So it's like, okay, Revelation 14. Take you guys right here. We're going to get to this part right here. Revelation 14, verse 12. This is the one they like to focus on. Now, I want you to pay attention because I'm not making it up. I want you to see clear as day, not hard to see. Okay, here is the perseverance of the saints in the yellow here. Here is the perseverance of the saints who keep, let's see that. I'm going to like this. Who keep the commandments of God. Now, what I want to do, we're going to underline that. And their faith, make sure we make this a little distinguished, and their faith here, okay? And their faith in Yeshua, as you may have Jesus. That's not his name, but okay. Anyway, so here's the perseverance of the saints who keep the commandments of God. This is very important right here. Keep the commandments of God. What are the commandments of God? Let's go back to Exodus chapter 19. And I want you to pay attention to this. It's very important to understand this. Starting off with verse 1. In the 3rd month after the sons of Israel had gone out of the land of Egypt, on that very day they came into the wilderness of Sinai. When they set out from Rephidim, they came to the wilderness of Sinai and camped in the wilderness. And there Israel camped in front of the mountain. Moses went up to God, and the sovereign, I say sovereign because Lord is beneath him. He's king of heaven, so why would you want to call him Lord? That's ridiculous. And the sovereign called to him from the mountain, saying, thus you shall say to the house of Jacob, and tell the sons of Israel. He says, okay, this is what I want you to go tell them. Okay, here's your instruction. You yourselves have seen what I did to the Egyptians, and how I bore you on eagle's wings and brought you to myself. Now then, if you will indeed obey my voice, this is the part that these guys never really understand, and keep my covenant. Covenant? Yes, this is very important. Obey my voice. He wants you to obey his voice. Let me make sure I underline that too. Obey my voice. I want you to understand this format, because this is how he set it up. Who obey my voice and keep my covenant. Now, when they talk about the law of Moses, they seem to forget that that's a covenant also. The law of Moses was a covenant, okay? But actually, the true covenant was in what he says by voice, okay? And what was that? Well, we're about to see that in the next chapter. But let's go on. Now, if you will indeed obey my voice and keep my covenant, then you shall be my own possession among all the peoples, for all the earth is mine. So all the planet. Okay? And you shall be to me a kingdom of priests and a holy nation. These are the words that you shall speak to the sons of Israel. Now, one right here, you're breaking the law of Moses. I'm going to tell you right here. You are literally breaking the law of Moses if you are a kingdom of priests. Right off the bat. I'm going to tell everybody that. Because the Levitical priesthood was the priesthood. So, obviously, the Father has a different set of plans that they're not, those who tell you to follow the law of Moses are not really in tune with and have no idea about. Now, they may claim to know something, and they may go into exegesis and all these different type of terms and all that stuff. That ain't going to help them, because you're supposed to be led by the Spirit, right? So that's where you go, okay? They're using the doctrines and precepts and the followings and instructions of men, not the Spirit of truth, which they're supposed to do, by the way, and they don't do it. But here's how it goes. And you shall be to me a kingdom of priests. Now, how are you going to be a kingdom of priests? You got 12 tribes, right? But there's only one tribe that was actually considered the priestly tribe. What was that? The Levitical priests, Levites, Levitical priesthood, the same ones who were working with Moshe, okay, dealing with the people. That's that priesthood. But yet he's saying the kingdom of priests. That means Benjamin's a priest, Reuben is a priest, Simeon is a priest, and so on and so on. They're all priests. If you come from any of the 12 tribes, the tribes of Israel, you would be considered a priest of that in that kingdom. But that can't be so under Levitical law. So that's the first problem that they're going to have to hop over. Good luck with that. They're not going to be able to do it. Moving on. They're going to claim it, but they're not going to be able to, because it's not going to make any biblical sense, because it doesn't. You can't do it. Because if he's saying this right now, he's telling Moses now, mind you, he's telling Moses, hey, if they do what I tell them to do and follow what my voice and keep my covenant, then guess what? There'll be a kingdom of priests and a holy nation. Of course, with some other things he said. But jumping to that verse 6 of Exodus 19. These are the words that you shall speak to the sons of Israel. So they got a promise given to them. Okay? This is what he's saying. But the promise is contingent upon them doing what they're supposed to do. Okay? So there's conditions. 2 conditions. Obey my voice and keep my covenant. Well, let's go over here and find out about this, what he says here. Now check this out. In Exodus chapter 20, first he has Moses tell him this, and then he says, you have to remember, he says, obey my voice. What's the first thing he does after he gets all that straight? He comes down and he speaks to the people. Watch this. Then God spoke all these words, saying, and these words mean following after what's being said here, I am the sovereign, your God, who brought you out of the land of Egypt, out of the house of slavery. You shall not have no other gods before me. Do you understand this? You shall not have any other gods before me. Remember, listen to my voice. And we're going to see how this fits. It's just like he said, listen to my voice and keep my covenant. Just like that, in order. Moving on. You shall not make for yourselves an idol or any likeness of what is in heaven above or on the earth beneath or in the water under the earth. You shall not worship them or serve them, for I, the sovereign, your God, am a jealous God, visiting the iniquity of the fathers on the children, on the third and fourth generations of those who hate me, which is very important. Key word here, because you're going to see it in these commandments right here. This is what set things about. And this is the Messiah was trying to allude to, and what he actually was pointing to and showing. But showing loving kindness to thousands of those who love me. Love me and what? What does love me? Love me is first and keep my commandments. Notice that. Love me and keep my commandments. Well, what are the commandments? These are the commandments he's giving right now. He's giving them the commandments. First one, I am the Lord your God who brought you out of the house of Israel. Out of the land of Egypt, out of the house of slavery. You shall have no other gods before me. Commandment right there. Boom. That's one. Okay. So he's going to go through it. And he goes, and then he gets into the details of what he means by you shall have no other gods before me. You shall not make for yourself an idol. So he's letting you know you can't do that. Or any likeness of what is in heaven above or on the earth beneath. Bingo. Or in the water under the sea. Okay. So this is all part of this. First commandment. You shall not worship them or serve them. The other part of it. Okay. For I, the Lord, the sovereign, your God, am a jealous God, visiting iniquity. Now he's letting you know, okay, he's going to visit the iniquity of those, the iniquity of the fathers onto the children of the third and fourth generation of those who hate me. So you got to be in that category altogether. You first got to be in the category of hating him. Because if you hate him, then you certainly going to go over there and worship idols and do all kinds of things and make all these likenesses and things like that. But if you love him, you're not going to do that. And they said, what is love? Following the commandments of the Father. This is it right here. So now we move on. But showing loving kindness to thousands, to those who love me and keep my commandments. First commandment right there. 1. You shall not take the name of the Lord or the name of the sovereign your God in vain, for the sovereign will not leave him unpunished who takes his name in vain. So here's another one. I'm going to put this one in green. I'll have to go back and forth with them. Wait a minute. Let me do this right here. This is not complicated, but they think that they're giving you knowledge and wisdom and stuff, and they really aren't. And if they're following precept upon precept, you can't beat what I'm doing. I'm doing precept upon precept. Let's go back again and take a look at this. If we go back to, did it jump on me? Yeah, Exodus 19. Exodus 19, remember? Obey my voice. Remember that? Right there on verse 5. Let's go back to 20. So this is his voice. Remember, he's speaking himself. Okay? You shall not take the name of the name of the sovereign your God in vain, for the sovereign will not leave him unpunished who takes his name in vain. Remember the Sabbath day and to keep it holy. So far so good. Okay. Let me go here, switch this to that now. 6 days you shall labor and do all your work. So this is all connected to the Sabbath. But the seventh day is the Sabbath of the sovereign your God. In it you shall not do any work, you or your son or your daughter, your male or your female servant, or your cattle, or your sojourner who stays with you. So you can't pawn it off to anybody else to get out of it. So you can't cause anybody else to be messed up. That's what he's saying. Love your neighbor as yourself and all these other things, because this is that's what that's all about. Because if you're keeping the Sabbath, you're not going to force your neighbor to do it. You're not going to force a sojourner to do it. You're not going to force your servant to do it. You're not going to force your sons and daughters to do it, okay? Or your husband and wife, okay? At all. See that right there? Already there. Now let's move on. For in 6 days the sovereign made the heavens and the earth, the sea and all that's in them, and rested on the seventh day. Therefore, the sovereign blessed the seventh day and made it holy. So this is all dealing with that commandment. Then we move on to the next one. Honor your father, your mother, that your days may be prolonged in the land which the Lord your God, or which the sovereign your God gives you. Okay? So this is the other commandment. Then he says, you shall not murder. Okay? All these are all capable of being kept. All of these. You shall not commit adultery. Can be kept. You can follow and not commit adultery. You shall not steal. Very simple, straightforward. No stealing. You should not bear false witness against your neighbor. If you did that, you would be hating your neighbor, would you not? Love your neighbor as yourself. So you want fairness for you, so quite naturally, you're going to do the same thing for your neighbor. You shall not covet your neighbor's house. See, this is where we get into this. No coveting. Okay? Or what belongs to them. Again, going back to loving yourself, or loving them as loving yourself. All the people perceive, now pay attention, now that's what's, see, let me count here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Right. Well, there's 10. I know there's 10 in here. So anyway. Now, we already have in this bundle, I'd say the 10 commandment bundle right here. Okay. In Exodus chapter 20. This is all him speaking, mind you. Now pay attention to this. Verse 18. All the people perceived the thunder and the lightning flashes and the sound of the trumpet and the mountain smoking. And when the people saw it, they trembled and stood at a distance. Then they said to Moses, speak to us yourself, and we will listen. But let not God speak to us, or we will die. Now, remember what he said. Those who listen to my voice. So the first thing, I'm going to tell you, the first thing that they broke, most people don't even tell you this, but the first thing that they broke was listening to his voice. That was the first commandment, one of the first things that they broke, that he instructed, he told Moses for them to pay attention to. What does it say? Let's go back. I'm going to show you the first thing, and I'm going to show you why this is all relevant. Okay? Why it makes sense. Remember, he says, now then, if you will indeed obey my voice. Well, the first thing that they wanted to get away from is his voice. That's the first thing that they wanted to get away from. After they heard the covenant and the commandments that he gave, oh no, Moses, we need to have you talk to us, not him. That was the first thing they did. Then they said to Moses, O Moshe, speak to us yourself, and we will listen. But let not God speak to us, or we will die. Now, they're speaking that on themselves. The Father didn't say this. The Moses didn't say this. That's something they're saying. Because they're thinking their fear is so heightened to such a degree, they're just going to fall out and die. Because he just spoke to them. Okay? And gave them instruction. That sounds a little too much, but that's where they are. So one of the first things they wanted to get rid of after they heard him is to shut him down so they didn't have to speak or actually to listen to him or listen to his voice to obey it. Do you understand that? That was the first thing that they wanted to do. Okay. He spoke. Okay. Moshe, why don't you talk to us and tell us, because we can't handle it. That's basically what they're saying. They can't handle it. Moses said to the people, do not be afraid, for God has come in order to test you, and in order that the fear of him may remain with you, so that you may not sin. So the people stood at a distance while Moses approached the thick clouds where God was. And then he goes into laws about the altar. Then the Lord said, or the sovereign said to Moses, thus you shall say to the sons of Israel, you yourselves have seen that I have spoken to you from heaven. So he's confirming. The first thing I did was I let you know you heard my voice. You heard me. So don't even give me that. I spoke to you directly. So you can't say, well, Moses told us, and how we know you told us. He could have said anything. No, the Father fixed that. He's like, I'm going to fire these down directly from heaven and let y'all hear me tell you. So you can't say nothing about who gave you the instruction. You know it came from me. Moving on. You shall not make other gods besides me, other gods besides me, gods of silver or gods of gold, you shall not make for yourselves. You shall make an altar of earth for me, and you shall sacrifice on it your burnt offerings and your peace offerings, your sheep and your oxen. In every place where I cause my name to be remembered, I will come to you and bless you. This right here, this is not being fulfilled by Israelites. I can tell you that right now. This one is not done. This is in the law of Moses, right? We're talking about the law of Moses, right? Well, there you go. It says right there, who's doing this? Have they been doing this consistently? Because remember, you break it one time, you broke it. Okay? So let's make sure we're clear. So that's the first one. That's why I try to get them to understand. First thing, the law about altars. Well, where's the altars at? Okay? If you make an altar of stone for me, you shall not build it of cut stones. For if you wield your tool on it, you will profane it. So in other words, you're going to profane the altar, so it's not worth it in the first place. So why even bother putting it together and putting it up? That's interesting. And you shall not go up by steps to my altar, so that your nakedness will not be exposed on it. How about that? People follow on this one? This is in the law of Moses. I just want to make sure everybody understands. This is in the law of Moses. I'm not making it up. You can go read it all you want. This is in the law of Moses. But what the Father gave was what? The 10 Commandments. The 10 Commandments that came by his own mouth. His own mouth. I said, well, no, he gave us all these other commandments. Yes, he gave us, but he gave certain commandments specifically for us to observe. The ones that came by his voice. There's only one set that came by his voice, meaning directly to the people. Do you understand? Directly. Okay? No intermediary, none of that. He spoke it directly. And what did he speak directly? 10 commandments. That's exactly what he spoke. So when you go back to Revelations, let's go back here and see. Revelations 14, going to verse 12. Here is the perseverance of the saints who keep the commandments of God. Which ones? The ones he spoke by his own mouth from heaven to us, the people. That's what he's talking about. Okay? That's why one is called the law of Moses, but then there's the commandments of God. And you'll literally see that right here, the commandments of God. And they came by voice, and they came by the marking on the tablets of stone that he gave to Moshe. Same thing. What are those things that he put on the tablets of stone? The 10 Commandments. That's what he literally tells you. That's what's on the tablet of stone. It's the 10 Commandments. And what he spoke, those same 10 Commandments is what he spoke directly to the people. Those are the commandments of God. Okay? You need to understand, those are the commandments of God. To hold together and keep together the covenant, which the covenant is connected. The law of Moses, well, actually, the commandments was the first covenant. By the way, that's the first covenant. The expansion of the additional laws, what I would say, the additional commands or laws or statutes or judgments, those are after the 10 first. He gets the 10 out the way. Those are the ones, and he says those directly. Okay? Only time you'll see that he spoke those directly to the people. No intermediary, nobody. He spoke directly to the people. These are what I want you to do. If you obey my voice, what did he put in his voice? Those 10 commandments. Tell me where he didn't. He did. Nobody could disagree with that. So let's go on to some other stuff I want you to show, because I want this to be clear so people understand this, because it seems to be easily misunderstood. And I'm going to try to go to, where do I want to go? Yeah, this is where I want to go to Jeremiah, because I always hit them with this, and I always want them to understand the same thing. It's the same principle. When they talk about in the book of Revelation, chapter 14, verse 12, those who keep the commandments of God, those are the ones that came by his voice and also were penned, or I say penned, but they were marked on tablets. And they're the same. The ones he spoke and the ones he put on the tablets are the same. Okay, they're the same ones. Interesting. And those were put into the Ark of the Covenant. You didn't have the 600 some odd statutes, ordinances, and judgments, okay, put in the commandment. No, what you had put in the commandment, not in the commandment, put into the Ark of the Covenant were the 10 Commandments. That's what you had put inside the Ark. Those commandments that he had put on tablets of stone, and he spoke directly to the people. Now, I'm going to tell you something which you don't seem to understand. If you break the law of Moshe, one of the things that's important that you must do and understand is the law of Moshe was a covenant which it required all of the people, not some of them, by the way. If one of them breaks it, just one person, you know the covenant's broken? They don't even tell you that, because it's a joint covenant. It's a covenant with the people. You know, he said people, didn't say person. It said people. When it says people, that means the people as a whole have to keep it. If the people as a whole or some of the people don't keep it and they break it, it's broken. Do you understand that? And what did they do? They said that they agreed, right? They agreed with it as a people, not as a person or an individual or a family, but as a people in total. Now, that's going to be a problem, because a bunch of Israelites are going to be messed up with that one, because I'm like, if you can't keep it as a whole, it's broken. Hopefully you know that, right? Your so-called in-depth teachers, I know for a fact they want to teach you about the law of Moses, but they don't teach you that level of it because they don't even know it, even though it's written right there in front of you. But let's go on. Let's get into Jeremiah chapter 31, starting from verse 31. Behold, days are coming, declares the sovereign, when I will make a new, what? A new covenant? Now, I want to make sure we get this straight, because a lot of these people keep talking about a renewed covenant. No, it's not no renewed covenant. That's garbage. And they claim to study Hebrew, and they get into, well, the Hebrew and the language of the Hebrew, and you got to understand the context and the culture. Okay, let's just get right to it. What is new? Kadash. What does it mean? New, fresh, new thing, new. Not where you get renewed. There's no renewed. It says new. It means new, fresh, something different, something new. They keep trying to make you think, oh, no, it's going to be renewed. No, renewed. It's going to be new. He literally meant that. It's going to be new. Because if you go to what it says in the scriptures, old things pass away, all things become what? New. It goes right back to the same thing. New. You can change it in Greek, you can change it in Hebrew. It's still going to come back to the same thing. New. Not renewed. It's new. You see the word right there. Kadash. I don't know where they get this renewed stuff. That's nonsense. They're misteaching you guys because they are trying to lead you down a path that even themselves they can't even fulfill and haven't been fulfilling their entire life. I can say that without any problems or issues. Their entire life they haven't been able to keep the law of Moses. Their entire life. Even when they teach it and be about you got to keep the law of Moses, they aren't even doing it. That's why he said, don't want you to be like the Pharisees. Instead, don't be like them. They're in Moses' seat. Yeah, they claim to be in Moses' seat, but they're hypocrites. And the people who are telling you to try to keep the law of Moses literally are hypocrites. And I will tell any of them to their face because I know for a fact, if I pull out the scriptures, did you keep this right here? Did you keep this? I can go through a whole bunch of them and be like, starting right off the bat. Did you keep this right here? Did you keep right off the bat? They're not even keeping the burnt offerings. So how you telling me you're keeping the law of Moses? How? You're a liar. And the truth is not within you. If you're teaching that way, you're a liar. And you're a false teacher. You need to be stripped, flogged, spanked. Back in the old day, we would just stone you behind. But let's move on. Behold, the days are coming, declares the sovereign, when I will make a new covenant, not a renewed. Do you see renewed covenant in there? No. It was the Hebrew word. The Hebrew word is kadesh. It's not kadash. It's not talking about renewed. It's talking about new, fresh, something new, fresh. Covenant with the house of Israel and the house of Judah. Because they're split. Not like the covenant now this is the part that really blows me away. Because I always wonder, how did they come to this conclusion to keep what doesn't need to be kept anymore? And it's broken, by the way. It's broken. And I'm going to tell you, it's funny, it's broken immediately. Watch this. Not like the covenant which I made with their fathers in the day I took them by the hand to bring them out of the land of Egypt. That goes right back to Exodus chapter 19, Exodus 20. No joke. No joke. Okay? Because that's when he brings it down. He starts bringing it out and letting them know. And he speaks to them directly. Speaks to them directly to such a degree they got scared. They want Moses to speak to them instead because they got all nervous and scared. Okay? Make sure we understand the context. I took them by the hand to bring them out of the land of Egypt. My covenant which they broke. When did they break it? Right outside the land of Egypt. When he took them outside the land of Egypt, right after he gave it to them, they broke it immediately. They had already broken it. Already. Didn't even take long. It was like, he says it, they agreed, they break it. It's just like that. It was so fast. I was like, well, dang. So now these people say, well, yeah, you can keep the covenant. You can keep the law of Moses. I'm like, really? You can keep the law of Moses? So explain to me how they broke it immediately after he spoke to them. He spoke to them. They broke it. It wasn't even that long. They broke it. Directly under his supervision. But you guys think that you can keep the law of Moses covenant. Well, they didn't even keep it. It didn't even take that long for them to break it. He's telling you when they broke it too. When I took them out of the land of Egypt, my covenant which they broke. Although I was a husband to them, declares the sovereign. Meaning he provided for them, he protected them. What's a good husband? Think of a husband. Provider, protector, and so on and so forth. A lover, all these things. That's a good husband, right? Isn't that what he did? Yes, he did. Okay. So he did his part, but Israel didn't, or we say the house of Israel and Judah didn't do their part. But it was only Israel, just Israel, okay, at that time, just one didn't do that, or the people didn't do their part, which was a mixed multitude, by the way. Even coming out of Egypt, it wasn't 100% Israelites. Coming out of Egypt was primarily, the majority were Israelites, along with others. That's why it's called the mixed multitude. Israel. Sad, sad, sad. They claim they know the law, but they know not which they speak about. They boast about it, but they don't know what they're talking about. They giggle about it. They laugh at people who don't accept their view. Well, their view is hypocritical. Why should they accept their view? The Messiah don't like hypocrites. I'm going to tell you that right off the bat. So I wouldn't advise it, okay? Keep the commandments? No doubt. The commandments of God? Absolutely. What are those in particular? The ones he spoke by voice and also marked on tablets of stone that were actually put inside the Ark of the Covenant. How hard is that? That's not difficult at all. Those you can. Okay? You trying to keep the law of Moses, good luck with that. Okay? Because there's all kinds of areas you're going to crash and burn and have been crashing and burning. Like when you go into the temple, what you're supposed to be bringing. Those who were 22 years of age, they're supposed to bring X amount of shekels, right? Are you doing that? No. What about the Sabbath they have every 3 years where you go to the temple? I mean, not the Sabbath, the celebration or the offering, the tithe, if you want to call it that, because that's actually a tithe of, I think it's every 3 years. They go to the temple. They can drink strong drink. They can eat all kinds of things, right? But this is celebration, okay? It's not to make certain people rich and wealthy. That's not what happened, even though it happens to the merchants or to those who are farmers who actually have certain things that people need to buy. I need to buy X amount of sheep to sell, you know what I mean? This is how much money I have because the tithe that I have was too far to carry. So I converted it into money, put it in, bound it up in my right hand, get to the temple. When I get to the temple for the celebration or the giving of my tithe to the priesthood, I go over to the merchants and I acquire, blah, blah, blah. That's exactly how it worked. Are you guys doing that? That's every 3 years. How you doing on that? And the tithe, by the way, isn't money. Never has been. Never. Not in scriptures, it's not. The only time you have access for money for a tithe is to convert it into capital cash. And then when you get to temple, you transfer it or convert it again to what actually is the tithe. People trying to shortcut it. So, well, the money's the tithe. No, the money isn't the tithe. It's unrighteous mammon. That's what he calls it. That's what they consider. It's unrighteous mammon. So you don't want to bring that. But they're promoting and having people come and give them unrighteous mammon. No. You don't want to do that. Again, if you're following the Levitical law, where's your tithe at? Ooh. I mean, I can go into a whole bunch of stuff, and I know for a fact these people are not keeping it. You can't just keep some of it. You have to keep all of it. And you have to keep it as a people, as an entire people. Not one person can slack on it. Not 2, not 3, not 20, not 10, not 50, 100, none of that. Thousands, millions, no, can't. It's combined, connected, so we're entwined in one body, one people, one nation. That's what you need to understand. These folks don't grasp that. And it's kind of difficult to do that when you're scattered to the four winds. Unbelievable. They claim to be teachers and scholars and know not what they teach or know what they're talking about. And I challenge any of them. I don't care. They can come over and talk to me about it. I don't really have any problems with it. They can contact me, email me, whatever. It'll make no difference to me. It's going to still come out the same way. I don't have to change anything. The scriptures is what it is. So they're going to have to be fighting and trying to come up with some clever way of trying to get around it. I don't have to do all that because the scriptures already tell you. It's straightforward, right down the line, in sequence, precept upon precept. Can't get any better than that. You can't, because it's literally set up that way. Exodus 19, what did he say? Now then, if you will indeed obey my voice, then what comes right after him saying this and had given this instruction to Moses to give to the people? He's prepping them because he's getting ready to talk to them. And this is what he tells them. The 10 Commandments. Then the father, I would say, that Abba spoke all these words, saying, I am the sovereign, your God, who brought you out of the land of Egypt, out of the house of slavery. You shall have no other gods before me. None. Zip, zero, none. Absolutely nothing. That means no gods of sneakers, no gods of t-shirts, no gods of artists, rappers, singers, whatever. Professors, you pick. Okay, I don't care. Movie directors, there's all kinds of things people are doing. Okay? No, none of them. Not one. You shall not make for yourselves an idol or any likeness of what is in heaven above or on the earth beneath. And this one, I actually realized I blew it. I didn't even know I blew it at one time. I was like, ooh, I'm not supposed to be doing any kind of heavenly things up there. I'm not supposed to be doing that at all. Zero, zilch. That means pictures. That means memes. That means any of that. None of that. Not supposed to be doing any of that. Ooh. Okay. Over under the earth. You shall not worship them or serve them, for I, the sovereign, your God, am a jealous God, visiting the iniquity of the father on the children, on the third and the fourth generations of those who hate me. Well, I certainly don't hate him. But loving him is definitely keeping his commandments and actually looking after your fellow brothers or neighbors and so forth as well with the commandments. These are the commandments of God. Don't let them confuse you with the law of Moses, commandments of God. Commandments of God come by voice and came by penmanship, or you say, or tablets of stone, voice, whatever, however you, but there's only going to be two, tablets of stone and voice. Those are the commandments of God. Those are the ones he gave directly to the people. No intermediary necessary, period. So when you go back to Revelation 14:12, that's what it's talking about. Now, some people try to go to refer to other things and they try to use, I don't necessarily, I could use what Paul said. We can go to the epistles. Those are valid points too. To me, as far as I'm concerned, they're still valid because they're still going to come back here. But I like to bring people right back to the source. So I'm like, let's go back. Since they love to stay in the Old Testament, they want to be in the Torah. No problem. No problem. Let's go ahead and do that. Go right back here and let you see it in sequence, in order, precept upon precept. There ain't no getting out of it. Case closed. End of story. Now, of course, they're going to come. They're going to try. They always do, because they don't want to, admit that they were incorrect, they were wrong, they were in error. They don't want to do that. So they're going to do their little games and all that foolishness. But it still ain't going to change anything. These words are still going to be the same, and the order that they were put in, they're still going to stay right there, whether they like it or not. Bummer for them. So look at this. These words here, Exodus chapter 20, started from verse 1 down to verse 17. Okay? You can easily take those as the commandments of God. That's because he literally put them on stone and he actually said it out of his mouth. Or if you want to say he said it out of his mouth and put them on stone. As long as you have those two understood, you know these are his in specific. And then when they asked him and they said, by the way, take a look at this. When you go in the New Testament, they said, what is the greatest commandments? When they asked the Messiah, he said, the greatest commandments Okay. No, he said commandments, the commandments of God. The greatest is love thy Lord thy God for all your heart, and all your soul, all your might, and all your spirit. You see, all your strength. That's what they're talking about, right? That's what the Messiah was talking about. Coming right back to here. Exodus chapter 20. Not law of Moses, commandments of God. And they don't seem to be able to distinguish between the commandments of God and the laws of Moses, or the law of Moses. The law of Moses covers this, okay, but this one is distinct and separate when you think about the law of Moses, because people think, well, the whole five books. Well, you can get away with that in a loose way. But when you're talking about specifically the laws of Moses, then you start to go down the line after this, after the 10 Commandments, the words or commandments of God. Commandments of God are different. They're distinct. They got his signature all over it. And literally, they have his signature all over him. And also, they have his voice backing it, his word. So you have the written word and the spoken word in unison. Pay attention. 2 witnesses right there. Case closed. Don't let them get you confused any further about the law of Moses, okay? And then they try to talk about the commandments of God and try to mix them in together. They're actually not the same, okay? The commandments of God are separate, okay? Distinct, marked by signature in stone and by his voice in the hearts and minds of the people. Now, once again, let's make sure we're clear. I'm going to go back to Jeremiah so people understand this without question. Let me see if I can, when I just jumped there, I'll just jump to Jeremiah. Where am I going here? Down here, 31:31. Behold, days are coming, declares the sovereign, when I will make a new covenant with the house of Israel and with the house of Judah, not like the covenant which I made with their fathers. Okay? Notice this. He made the covenant with our fathers. He didn't make the covenant with us. He made the covenant with our fathers. In the day I took them by the hand to bring them out of the land of Egypt. My covenant which they broke. And they broke it over and over and over. But it's specific to let you know, even from Jeremiah, they broke it immediately after he brought them out of the land of slavery and bondage, Egypt. Right after he brought them out there, they sure enough broke it. And you know, with the golden calf and all, you know, they broke it immediately. It didn't take that long at all. So think, with the perfect conditions that they had, with him overseeing them, they still broke it. Now, how you have Israelites and people now, like, we're scattered all around the globe, and somehow we're going to fulfill the law of Moses. That's laughable. Sadly laughable, but it's laughable. These people know not what they're talking about. So you guys take that to them. Hopefully you guys are blessed and you understand. My apologies if it's too long for you, but I just want to make sure this sinks in and gets deep into your spirit and your understanding. You're no longer swayed by this nonsense argument that they keep bringing up. And yes, it's a nonsense argument. Because have them show the distinction between the commandment of God and the law of Moses. And if they can even get that far, then they should see clearly why. It shouldn't even take that much for them to figure that out. Can we fulfill the law of Moses? No, you cannot. And even the Messiah said, Moses said that you could give her a certificate of divorce. But what did the Messiah say? But since the beginning, it was not so. Even the Messiah disagreed with the law of Moses, by the way. Because he was ushering in the new covenant with the Most High. bring in the new covenant. He's the doorway or the direction to go to the new covenant. That's why you have to have the commandments and their faith in the Messiah. Okay? I say Yeshua, some of you say Yeshua, but I'm telling you, that's what you have to have. Okay, not Jesus, that's not his name. So sorry about that. It's in the Hebrew language and the Hebrew tongue, so you have to speak it that way. That's why it's important. Okay? So the world still has to deal with the fact that the Messiah has a Hebrew name that needs to be spoken in Hebrew tongue. But I'll say, in closing, I'll say this too. These folks keep talking about following the Messiah. They claim to be, but I keep saying, do they know the name of the Father? Do they know the name of the Son? And do they know the name of the Holy Spirit? Because if they don't know all three, they can't even baptize. They can't minister. They're not even in the royal priesthood. They have nothing to do with the truth, as much as they claim. They're just as far off as a Christian or someone else is. They have to have the proper ingredients. Don't have those ingredients, you're not doing the proper job that you claim that you're doing. It's just that simple. You're slacking on your education. In order to be a good teacher, you got to be a good student. S comes before T. They have not become good students, being led by the Spirit of truth who will guide you into all truth. They're too busy trying to follow and get prominence in the ways of the men in front of them, when they're supposed to be led by the Spirit of truth. That's the better. That's what the apostles had. They had to follow the leading of the Spirit of truth. That's how they had to go. Once the Messiah was gone, they had to go by the Spirit of truth. That's how we have to go, the Spirit of truth. And everyone else, same way. Shalom.